myself again. But it's the only...
Good afternoon and welcome to NUFC Matters Retro Match Live. No match, of course, this weekend because it is Premier League's resting weekend because of the internationals. So we are going to go with a playback match today, which is available, of course, on Newcastle United's YouTube. We've put the link down in the information box below. And the way we do it is we all press play together. We all skip the adverts together and we all watch the match together. We'll be talking, of course, about days gone by against Newcastle and Sunderland, whether it was at Roker Park, the Stadium of Light, or at St James's Park. And we'll be reading your comments out, talking about your memories. And we'll also be talking about the game, which is a fascinating game because it's Alan Shearer's last game in a black and white shirt, of course. And we all know what the result was. We all know it was a happy ending. And we'll be talking about people's memories, as I say, of Newcastle, Sunderland, talking about maybe, what people, feel about Sunderland these days with them being 2 divisions lower than us. Lots of things to talk about, as always. And I'll be joined, I'm sure, by maybe 1 or 2 other people as the afternoon goes on. But it's a big afternoon. Good afternoon to Chris, to Daz, to Adam, and Stephen, who's in Shildon. Good afternoon, Stephen. He sent us a message today asking, his pal, Burnsy, actually, sent us a message today, Ben Johnson, saying, my friend Stephen would love to come on, and I know Stephen had messages in the past. So welcome, Stephen. Don't be nervous. Enjoy yourself. I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Good stuff. Okay, then, if everybody's ready, the link we're going off, as I say, is in the drop-down box. So if we just want to click on the YouTube link now, and there'll be a countdown for adverts if you just let that play. And then it says skip ads, and click skip ads now. And then hopefully we should all be roughly at the same period in time. Keep your volume down on it, though, guys. Obviously, from our perspective, we don't want to have the volume coming over the top. So I suppose my first question is to anybody on the chat, who was actually there?
None of us, anyway.
Yeah, none of us. That's all right.
Well, that's interesting. I was there. I wondered whether anyone had managed to make it to the game. I was actually there, and my day, I suppose, it started off at. It started off in the Newcastle city centre. We ended up, as most people know who are from Newcastle, we ended up in a bar in Newcastle, which opened up very early, the Black Garter, which is it's based just up next to Eldon Square. I think we were in there at 7 o'clock in the morning. So we were well tanked up, had a good drink, and then we had to get the trains down. I never used to get the bus down, but I'd always get the train down. And to be honest, it's the most tribal game that there is. The atmosphere, the going down there and singing all the songs, and you're almost you're well lubricated with the alcohol, and your throat's sore as you get down there before you even get to the ground. But when you get down there, and I think it's quite. It's like a military operation, you're getting guided to the ground from either the buses or the train station or the metro station, and then into the ground, and you're in there early. On some occasions, the bars have been closed. On other occasions, the bars have been open inside the ground, but then you're straight in, and there's nothing better than the atmosphere of a Newcastle Sunderland derby. And this one in particular was special. It was Shearer's last season, of course. We're in April 2006 here. And as the teams walk out into the tunnel, you can see obviously Alan Shearer captaining Newcastle, and the man captaining Sunderland that day was of course Stephen Caldwell, a good friend of mine, former Newcastle player, former Newcastle defender, did very well down at Sunderland when he went down there. Great guy, great lad. But as the teams walk onto the pitch, it does bring back really special memories, and the hairs do go up on the back of my neck as you watch this. So, Chris, can you remember where you were when you watched this game?
Yeah, so I had just moved to Washington, D.C. From the West Coast that summer, and so Premier League games were sort of hard to come by, but there was a few bars in Washington D.C. that would show the matches. So that's where I'd watch.
Okay, Stephen, what about you, mate?
Well, I've never seen it live actually. Said I was I think I didn't even bother looking at it because I was that nervous. So I just listened to it on the radio. So that.
What's it like when you listen to a match like that on the radio? I know it's bad enough, Stephen, when you're actually there, right? I've got to be perfectly honest. I've been very lucky. I've never missed a derby game since I started going to Newcastle's games on my own in 1985. What's it like listening to the radio? I presume you must listen to maybe Metro Radio, Matthew Raisbeck, and that. Is it? What's it like listening to those guys?
Yeah, well, I don't really listen to late radio much because I can watch the Newcastle games now, but back then it was on BBC Newcastle, like say when Mick Lord was doing it. I couldn't differentiate in my mind where the ball was in the field, and I get myself really angry. I started shouting at different things, move the ball forward, defend, attack, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't really like listening to it on the radio, but I had to that day, so.
Okay, good stuff. Daz, I presume you were in your homeland watching this, were you?
Yeah, I was, of course, Steve. Yeah, it was 2006, so I was just about to start building my house, or had just started at that stage. So, I didn't watch it live. I would have seen it on Match of the Day. I imagine I have zero recollection of it, anyway, to tell you the truth, unless I could have been listening to it on radio on some kind of Irish radio station or something like that. But so I didn't get to see it live. So I'm actually looking forward to watching it in full today.
Yeah, Kevin Ball there as well, just as the teams are on the pitch and they're getting ready, getting the photographs with the mascots and everything. Kevin Ball was the manager of Sunderland that day. Again, another guy who I often bump into locally. He often goes to a lot of the Northern League games and in and around the area. Solid player for Sunderland. One of those people, of course, who's ended up stepping in as a caretaker manager on numerous occasions for Sunderland. Not bad for a Mackem, Bally, I've got to be perfectly honest. Very good friends, of course, with John Beresford as well. They played together. Done a couple of talk-ins with him. He's actually a canny lad. Adam, where were you, mate, on this bright April day 2006?
I had so I was in Indiana, a bit like Chris. I just made a pretty big life decision, move to America about a year or so before this game. So like Chris, trying to find a live version of it was hard, but there's a little Irish pub in the town that I used to work in that opened up at 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever our time to show the game. So I did get to watch it live, but I had just forgotten because it was 14 years ago. I'd forgotten about Steve Caldwell captaining Sunderland, and it was just so good to watch the walkouts, see some of the quality players we had. And this wasn't even a particularly good Newcastle team, but the fact that we still had like Kieran Dyer in midfield just reminds me of when we used to have a bit of flair in the team. A bit of unpredictability was fun to watch. You got to give Glenn Roeder a bit of credit as well. I'm sure we'll talk about him being the manager at the time, but he really steered that ship for Newcastle. Played an important role in the mid 2000s for us. So it was just good to see all the walkouts there. It reminded me of better days.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right, mate. I mean, Glenn Roeder, I'm old enough, of course, to remember him first time round as a player. But he did the Roeder shuffle. You've heard of various like the Cruyff turn. The Roeder shuffle was something special there. But yeah, look, he wasn't too bad a manager. He was somebody who certainly bought into the area as a player, and he did the same as a manager. And it was interesting, the battle of those two managers. And I'd forgotten that it was Glenn Roeder against Kevin Ball. Sorry, Chris, what were you going to say, mate?
Oh, I was going to say I'd already got commercial breaks in there, so I don't know whether you guys are on the same time there already.
Yeah.
I was also going to say that I was off by a few months, and I was still living in Sacramento, California, and I had actually injured my foot that summer. So while I was watching this match, I had 16 stitches in my foot So I was on crutches. So to go anywhere was a big deal. So I remember having to go walk on crutches to the pub to watch this match.
What's
just
go on, Daz? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of reading up a small bit about just kind of what position this lies in the timeline of Newcastle history, I suppose. But so Souness had just had been sacked here, and Glenn Roeder, and I didn't realize Glenn Roeder was in, but I didn't realize Shearer was kind of second in command at this stage. He was kind of playing a kind of an assistant manager kind of role.
Yeah,
it's funny because when I've been searching like through the internet for some photographs of Shearer for our show in the past, that one came up of Glenn Roeder with Shearer, and I actually had it as a front page of a fanzine once, and Daz, I forgot that although we remember Shearer for taking over and not keeping Newcastle up, he had quite a good spell as a number 2, didn't he?
Yeah, should have.
Yeah.
That should have been what he ended up, really. I mean, it would have been the perfect apprenticeship for him had he come in as assistant manager or, first team coach or something for a couple of years. I think that would have changed the trajectory of his career in management had he done that.
That's an interesting point. I mean, if he had come in and then not been like dropped in at the deep end,
right,
then I think you're right, Adam. I think he probably could have gone on to do something a bit more in the management side of things. Definitely.
No.
What do you? Oh. You're not. Yeah, good opportunity there. Steve, you're nodding your head there. Do you think Shearer could have done better if he'd, as a manager, if he'd learned his trade as a number 2 first?
Yeah, I think he got thrown in at the deep end when he was given him a team to try and save Newcastle from relegation. I just think it would have been better if he was alongside a more experienced manager, so he could learn the ropes in a way, and then that would set him up for potential material job in the future. I just think it was like too much of a big job for him trying to save Newcastle in 8 games, which it was.
Yeah, okay. And what about you, Chris? Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of thinking that like some of the very elite players have a hard time in management because the level that they were at, they can't coach everyone up to the level that they were at, and I remember that's what Shearer said was the issue when he stepped in, for those final 8 matches to try to save them from relegation, is that he was expecting them to be able to train to his level, and it's one thing to be able to inspire players, but it's another thing to sort of have expectations or drill them to a certain level that you achieve that nobody else can achieve. So I'm not sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Great point as well by Mark, Newcastle United, 1980, 1994. If you haven't joined that Facebook page, by the way, give it a join, and also search that up on Twitter, because it's honestly, if you're of a certain vintage, it's a great community. He manages it well, and he's got some fantastic clips. And don't worry, Mark, I've still got your DVD here, mate. When I hook up, I'll make sure I give you that back. The 1983-84 promotion season going up documentary. He says Lee Clark's last start for the club. What a contribution he made to the Newcastle Revolution under Keegan. And that's right, isn't it? It is right, Daz. I mean, Lee Clark was a terrific servant.
Oh, he was, yeah, and I know he spent a bit of time at Sunderland as well. But no, he did great for us. And I know when people try and pinpoint the reason why we didn't win the league that year, dropping Lee Clark is one of the things that comes up. But hopefully, his son Bobby can have some kind of a similar career as his dad. He looks impressive. Any of the little clips I've seen.
Yeah, Bobby's certainly coming on in leaps and bounds. I know Lee is, Lee's brought him up really well, and he's very level-headed as well, very grounded. So hopefully he will progress. But the biggest worry I've got about Bobby is that other clubs come sniffing. But he's a Newcastle fan, he's a Newcastle lad. Let's hope we don't have to go all the way around the houses, and he has to do an Alan Shearer and sign for somebody else before we realise how good he is and end up paying over the top for him. But the one thing about Lee is he won't imprint anything on him. Bobby's going to be his own man, and he make his own decisions. Lee will always be there to guide him, but no, it's good stuff. Just watching the match there, I'm not sure where you guys are up to, but just like the point you made, Adam, about the team there. I mean, we didn't announce the teams, but you've got the likes of Charles and Zogbia there, or Insomnia, as one of our managers used to call him. Celestine Babiaro, who didn't really cover himself in glory at the club at the time. Mark Corby's obviously already mentioned Lee Clark. We've got Alan Shearer there. Got Shea Gibbon. It wasn't a bad team, was it? Wasn't a bad team at all. That.
No, it was really a pretty good team. I'm pretty sure I've seen Noel Solano out there too, right? He was playing right wing, I think. Still, what a great player he was. Truly an amazing story, right? Really coming one of the first Peruvians, I think, to play in the Premier League, and that's a pretty short list still, I think. So, what a groundbreaker he was. But
here's a starting lineup, Adam. So it gives you a little bit more to play with. Gibbon was in goal. Stephen Carr, Titus Bramble, Craig Moore, the Australian, getting a start. Yeah. Babiaro, Solano, Amdi Faye, Lee Clark, Charles Nzogbia, Kieran Dyer, and Alan Shearer. And obviously substitutes on the day were Michael Chopra, who obviously has his part to play. Boom Song got a rare game. And then we've got Albert Luque. Unused subs on the day were Harper and Ramage. And on the Sunderland team, we had Davis, Hoyt, Caldwell, Danny Collins, McCartney, Lawrence, Whitehead, Miller, Daryl Murphy, Stead and Brown. And the substitutes on the day were Archer and Kyle. Archer, of course, had a part to play as well. Joe Murphy, Breen and Ledbetter were the unused substitutes on that day. So that gives you a bit to play with, I suppose, with regards to the Newcastle team anyway, mate.
Yeah, there's it's just going back to the Lee Clark comment that Mark brought up. Me included, we always forget with the entertainers that actually the foundation of that team was built around local players that came through the youth system. I always laugh when people talk about that Man U generation that came through that led them on to Alex Ferguson's career and all those wins and the titles. But in some ways, Newcastle did the same thing, just without winning any of the trophies. We had a team in 93, 94, beginning of 95, that had a whole bunch of young Newcastle academy players in it, Steve Watson and Lee Clark and so on and so on. So I always want people to talk about the entertainers as not only a great team of players, but also a core of sort of our local players. And we shouldn't forget that. It's such a shame that we have come so far away from having that in these days. But I was going to ask you a question, Steve, with you being at the game. I've watched this live. I watched it live many, many years ago, obviously, and I've watched it a couple of times since. And I never realized how many empty seats there were at the Stadium of Light. I know they had already been relegated, so I don't know if that had a part to play. But was it like a security reason that there were so many empty seats, or is that just where they were in those days? It's hard to believe.
Yeah, unfortunately for Sunderland, that was the beginning of the end for Sunderland football clubs, full stadiums. Once or twice, I think probably after that, they started to attract full crowds. But yeah, I mean, it was not a security thing at all. It was simply down to the fact that they didn't have enough supporters. And I think when you look at the home ends, I mean, we're attacking that major home end, and there's still gaping holes on the left hand side, at the far end there, and it's rather embarrassing for a derby. And of course, Newcastle fans on the day made sure that they made the Sunderland fans know exactly how they felt. You couldn't sell all your tickets, empty seats, they're here, they're there, they're everywhere, empty seats. So it just became synonymous with derbies, where Newcastle fans would mock the Sunderland fans for not being able to sell their own ground out. But I suppose on the flip side of that, the way I often look at it, guys, is that Sunderland fans vote with their feet, and Newcastle fans tend not to. Up until the last couple of years, where we've obviously seen a slow decline. But then obviously at the start of last season, we had, 10,000 people decided not to go to the game. So for the first time in a long time, Newcastle United fans have decided, well, enough's enough. Both teams used to be like that, of course, because, you know, I can remember, as I say, my supporting of Newcastle started back in the 80s. I do remember crowds of, you know, 17, 18,000 in a ground which had a capacity of 36. I also remember going to pre-season friendlies like the Brøndby game, where there was 2,000 of us in the ground for a friendly. You know, more or less, most of us were, you know, on the Gallagher end. It's just bizarre to think back to those days. But yeah, both sets of supporters either voted with their feet when the teams were doing badly, or depending on what the financial situation was. We'll have to remember in the 80s we had a miners' strike. You know, our area was predominantly pits and mining, and a lot of those people who probably would like to have gone to the match in that time would have lost their jobs and wouldn't have had the money to spend to go to the game. So, you know, it's yeah, but a long-winded answer to your question, but that was certainly what it was all about, just Sunderland fans voting with their feet.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know about these days, but you know, like when they got relegated from the Championship to League One, you know, what would you do in that situation as a fan? I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? That it, you know, it wasn't that long ago in hindsight that they were competing in the top 10 of the league. And you could do a whole show about how they've fallen so far so quickly, but it
or a Netflix series, even, Adam.
What's that?
Or a Netflix series.
Or a Netflix series, yeah. Although ours would probably be better, frankly. But yeah, it's just amazing how much power fans had back then to make a statement. I'm not sure these days that sort of fans carry that much weight, unfortunately. Wish they did, but.
Well, it is interesting, though, guys, because you say that, Adam. But you know what? The one thing that is noticeable now is essentially that, you know, the lack of fans is massively affecting the games. The results now that we're seeing in the Premier League, especially because that's what we watch, because that's where we are. But the Premier League games, there are crazy results, and that's got nothing to do with COVID. I think it's a lot. It just means that home advantage doesn't exist anymore because you haven't got the massive crowds, you know, behind the various teams. Every game feels like a training game, a kickabout.
Yeah,
I think that's why we're seeing some odd scores.
You made a great point last night on the show about the next 5 games, and you made the point that you don't even need to ask whether they're home or away, because it just doesn't matter anymore. You know, so I would love to hear from a player. I wonder if the media is sort of not asking them this on purpose, but I would love to hear from a current player, you know, about this whole, like.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, Adam, that I've heard players say that it's different for them because they feed off the crowd, and they don't quite have that sort of in-game experience that they get from, you know, full crowd on, you know, on song and everyone, and it's just it's unsettling for them. They can't quite get in the rhythm of the games, you know, beyond all.
I remember as a kid, I'm sure we all played football as a kid. I remember as a kid how exciting it was to play under the lights. Like if you played Sunday league football or you played junior level football, if you got to play under the lights, even in an empty park, just being under the lights was a massive thing for youth players. And for me personally, this was a weird one because I was a striker. Any stadium or ground that we went to that had box nets instead of the old hoop nets, that used to really excite me too. So I can imagine it's really weird for these professional players that have been playing in front of 30, 40, 50, 60,000 to suddenly be in empty stadiums. Be like a whole different game, I think.
You know what? I don't know if any of you guys watch the golf. I only watch the majors, you know, like the Open, etc. But I love watching the Ryder Cup, and I like watching the Masters and various other things. And obviously in the golf at the minute, the Masters is on. And again, it's about crowds. But I don't know whether you saw, there was a shot taken. I can't remember which golfer it was now, but it went into the rough. Now, obviously, when you have a full crowd of people there, when the ball usually lands, it goes into the supporters. They all crowd around the ball, but then there's a marker comes straight out and they know where the ball is. What we found yesterday was the ball went into the rough. They couldn't find the ball, so whoever it was couldn't find the ball. Now, I basically presume he's had to take another ball. He's had to drop a ball. But again, it just shows you the effect that the crowds have on major sports, and everybody is suffering with it in one way or another.
Exactly. Yeah. I saw that too, Steve. It's interesting, and because they have at the Masters now, so they say there's no crowd, but like if you're a member there, you can go. So there's guys, all the guys in the green jackets are the members. So you have, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people there or less than that. But yeah, it's crazy, and it's just sports is just, it feels like it's on another planet right now with all the no crowd.
Yeah.
The good news, as we're watching Sunderland in this game against Newcastle, this retro watch back, the good news is that MK Dons have equalised at the Stadium of Light today. So it's Sunderland 1, MK Dons 1. So Sunderland struggling a little bit. Mickey Gray must have got the result there. He's covering Port Vale versus Tranmere and started to wince as they came on camera. So he's probably just found that out. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, this game as well. It's just the atmosphere. Whether you're at home or away, the games are really always special in the derby matches. And I mean, does anybody actually miss them? I mean, I know I do. I personally miss them. I don't miss the build-up, because the build-up in the week before is absolute agony. But I always used to enjoy the games, whereas my dad is on the flip side. My dad just hates it, full stop. My dad's delighted that we don't play Sunderland. But any of you miss it?
Oh yeah, I miss it.
Yeah, no, we have
everything about it.
Yeah, Burrows in the league anymore.
Yeah,
every season you would look for the derby home and away, and now in League One. Well, we're in the Premier League.
I know it's weird. I mean,
I still miss it. I'd like to still have it, but that kind of be helped with predicament Sunderland's in at the moment, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Keith Roll makes the point. He says, "Can you remember Newcastle fans singing 'We'll Meet Again'?" I mean, that's another one of those songs that we used to sing to the Mackhams when we're down there, But obviously, when they were getting relegated, which used to be every other season, but from our point of view, it doesn't feel like we will meet again, does it?
No.
Not anytime soon. I mean, it's funny to think about it, though. I mean, we're actually only one division apart, right? If we were to go down and they were to go up, that would take care of it. So we're actually only one league apart in some ways. But I don't see either of those things happening this season. But you just never know with Newcastle.
Yeah, maybe not this season, Adam. But like with I know I haven't read an awful lot about it, but with Sunderland's takeover and if our takeover didn't happen, next season or the season after that, we could be in the same division. Like, it could go anyway. Really,
it could happen quick.
Yeah, it's fine margins, guys. It is fine margins. And that's why it's always best not to laugh too hard, because you never know when the tables are going to be turned, And maybe that comes with a bit of age. Like, once you've been through this situation a few times, you don't mock. So, I mean, obviously, you're all over the place as far as, where you live, guys. Have you ever been to a derby game, Daz? Have you ever managed to get to one?
No, I'd love to get to go. I also thought that. Yeah, I definitely would, but I always think like, okay, now it has been a long time since I got to St James's Park, so as we discussed in numerous shows before. When the fixtures come out, as Stephen says, I would look. Oh, maybe I could get to this game. Maybe, but I can't even rule out the Sunderland game, because I think I'd never get tickets for that. That'd be kind of my thought process on it. But yeah, I'd love to get to go.
Yeah, Adam, have you ever had the opportunity to go, or have you ever managed to get to one of those games?
No, I've not been to a derby. I mean, a bit similar to Daz's point. I mean, when I lived in England till 2005, there was no chance of getting a ticket to a derby game. Right, this was back in the day when certainly every game at St James's Park was a sellout. You'd have to steal a ticket to a derby game probably, and it's much like any Newcastle fan that lives elsewhere. I mean, it's on the bucket list, isn't it? I mean, an FA Cup final at Wembley or a Sunderland game at St James's Park would be my two games to attend at some point in my lifetime. So certainly on my bucket list, but no, I've not made it to a derby game, and God knows when the next one will be, right? So we'll have to see, but I'll make it a priority for the next time there is one.
Stephen, have you managed to do it? Have you ever been to a Newcastle Sunderland or a Newcastle Middlesbrough?
No, I've never been lucky enough to go to a derby match. I did go to one last in January against Chelsea, where we won in the 94th minute. That was a great experience.
What was it like? What was it like for you then going into the stadium and that, Stephen?
I'd won tickets off a Twitter competition actually. That taken me 2 friends with us because I got given 3 tickets, and we were in this Platinum Club. It's like a really swanky place, and at the end I got to meet John Beresford, who was giving a talk with Ian Payne from ITV. It was given a pre-talk match, before the game, half-time talk, and after the game, where there was Chelsea fans in the corner who won a competition to say when the first goal would be, and Ian Payne walked over to the Chelsea supporter and said, "Well, he's a notebook for you, so you can document what happened today." The whole place erupted with laughter.
Yeah, it's always good when you get a chance to meet an ex-player as well within the ground. It's something that the club should really look at doing a little bit more of, I think, moving forward. But maybe even with supporters in the concourses, it's something I've suggested in the past to previous regimes, and they've never took it on board. But, I've often thought that would be a really, really good idea. Chris, what about you, mate? I mean, I presume you're in the same boat, not had a chance to go to a derby, Newcastle, or Newcastle Sunderland or Newcastle Borough.
Yeah, so I moved to the UK in September 2015, so right at the start of our relegation season, and that kind of started the relegation cycle for all of the Northeast clubs. So hopefully I'm not the bad luck.
But, the jinx.
I know, yeah, but no, I mean it's definitely on my list, and I'm sure if Sunderland were able to make it back up, the derbies would be even more on the level,
Well, we've always got an opportunity in the FA Cup, lad. You never know. The FA Cup draw can always throw up a surprise. It's been a while since we've played them in the Cup, and you never know what January might bring. If the third round draw is in January. Yeah. John from qtechshop.co.uk, one of our sponsors. Hi, John. He says, massively missing the derby, but the day itself is a nightmare. Can't enjoy it until game is over with the right result. Then I watch it back the next day, seeing everything I've missed live. Yeah. I've got to be perfectly honest, lads. I don't think, and to you, John, I don't think I can remember much about the derbies actually live, because usually we're all 3 sheets to the wind, completely intoxicated and just enjoying the day. But you do tend to go back. I think you're right, Stephen. Yeah, you do need Geordie antibiotics to get through it, and that usually involves. It does need Jaeger bombs and pints, and God knows what else you throw down your neck. And then the game just passes you by. And as you say, the next day it's great if you've won, but if you've lost, you've got a hangover and you've got to go and get a hair of the dog, I think. But big shout out to newworkwear.com. Chris is going to try and get in there. Look, go on, Chris.
Go for Chris.
They're the specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace. Big shout out to them this month that's brilliant, that Chris, for the great effort, son. I'm not going to put you in the corner anymore. That's
to the middle anymore.
Yeah, qtechshop.co.uk, makers of pool tables and snooker tables in the northeast. Of course, they do our Newcastle Legends and NUFC Matters t-shirts. So get yourself onto the website if you'd like one of them or want to buy somebody one for Christmas. Got to say a big shout out to everybody who took part as well last night in the NUFC Matters Children in Need special with the 3 amigos. Was absolutely superb. Just an idea that our our good friend Spenny came up with yesterday morning when he was getting his kids ready for school. They were going to do something for children in need, and we just said, look, why don't we do something? So thanks to everyone who took part. We managed to raise £1,000 for children in need last night with a variety of talent. Kendall came on and did a bit of singing. We had Sav doing her Barat impersonation. I did a little bit of singing with the rest of the gang, and we had Mick Edmondson on from the back page, of course. Mick essentially gave us the biggest secret of Tyneside, which you can catch up with on the Three Amigos. If you want to know what it was, then tune into that show. It's well worth a watch. Mitch, of course, did what he does all the time anyway. Downed a pint, but downed it like Mike Ashley. So that was good as well. It was a cracking night. I think everybody enjoyed it, didn't they, lads?
Spenny and Drag.
Yeah, Spenny and Drag, of course. Well, Spenny came on as Spenny Maggie instead of Spenny Mag, which was great. But big shout out to Spenny, good lad, top lad, and great idea. And it just shows what the Newcastle United community can do when we pool our time and effort and resources together. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I just want to say well done to everybody. It was a great show, and everyone did brilliantly. I was going to jump on the song as well, but I did my Steve Hasty maths and said, yeah, you're not going to fit 11 people on that screen. So, but it looked really good. I won't say it sounded good, but it looked really good.
No, it definitely didn't sound good. Simon, just to let everybody know, Simon Cowell definitely hasn't been on the phone. I was hoping we might get something from the guys off The Voice, maybe Tom Jones or somebody, but we've had nobody else on. So yeah, that's the thoughts of a Christmas #1 for us off for at least another year. But we'll be doing something like that again. I think it was a great idea, great concept. So thanks everybody for supporting it, and thank you guys for donating. Paul Oxley says, first derby game was when they beat us in the playoffs. Gates and Gabbiadini scored the goals. I've never heard the bus so quiet going home. Yeah, I was at that game as well. I was at Broker Park for the 0-0 draw, of course, when we had a penalty given against us. Gabbiadini, for me, definitely dived in that game. Burridge was in goal, John Burridge, and we had a penalty save. It was 0-0. We thought we'd done the job down there, thought we got the result that was needed, but as Paul quite rightly points out, Gabbiadini and Gates came to Tyneside and did a smash and grab. And I think I've said on the programme before when we did the retro show about Sunderland that that was one of the first games I remember crying at. Me and my dad were there, and he had a tear in his eye as well. But yeah, Nick Williams doesn't miss the derbies. He hates it when we lose, which of course is no surprise there. Paul Oxley says he's not bothered about Borough. There's only one derby in their eyes. Royston says, question for Steve. What's been your favourite away day? My favourite away days are either they were always Blackburn away, because it was always a great trip, always welcome. We had our own bar. It was fantastic. Got down there, no problems with the police, and we used to do okay down there. I used to love Tranmere, and there was a cracking bar called the Mersey Clipper outside the back there. And of course, I went down there for the Mercantile Cup or whatever it was called, or the it was a televised game on Sky. I think it was the first time we'd been on. It might have been one of the first televised games on Sky, but it was Newcastle 6, Tranmere 6. And if I remember rightly, it was Mickey Quinn and Gavin Peacock both got a hat-trick in the game for Newcastle. John Aldridge got a hat-trick for Tranmere, and it was a 6-6 draw. I've got that on tape somewhere, and I bet you Mark Corby's got it. But it was an absolutely brilliant game to be at. But yeah, I was there. But the Mersey Clipper was the bar outside the back, and very like Blackburn, just a welcoming place. If I remember rightly, I think Tranmere had an open end area, a bit like Barnsley. So if it was raining, it was an absolute nightmare. But yeah, that was always a good trip. I did enjoy Leeds as well. Used to love Leeds, but I love going to Sunderland as well. So Adam, your favorite away, your favorite like away trip. You know, if you've been on one, or if is there one you'd particularly like to go to that you haven't been to?
Yeah, I've actually, funnily enough, I've been to more Newcastle away games than Newcastle home games, because I grew up in London. So when they used to come down there, I try and get in to see them. I went to a couple of really good ones. So one that stands out to me was a 1-1 game with Chelsea where Les Ferdinand equalised in like the 97th minute. The ref played. I think he just wanted to play until Newcastle were going to equalise. I swear, I don't know why there was so much injury time, but I remember being actually in the Chelsea end with my uncle, and just the Chelsea fans were absolutely livid because I really think there was like 10 minutes of injury time and Newcastle scored in. But my favourite is actually a pre-season friendly. They played Reading, which is where my mum lives, and where I spent some time before I came to the States. So I forget what year it was, but Ruud Gullit was the manager, and Newcastle, I think, were 2-0 down at half time and playing terribly. Pre-season game. I think James Coppinger was up front. I think maybe Paul Dalglish. I mean, really, really poor side. And Gullit was so annoyed that he brought himself on at half time and played sweeper and turned the whole game around. And he was by far the best player on the pitch. I mean, Reading, I think, were in the Championship at the time, so not when they were in the Premier League. But Gullit was so annoyed at the team for how badly they played that he brought himself on and he completely dominated the game. I mean, he was by miles the best player. And you forget how young he was when he was the Newcastle manager. I think he was only in his mid to late 30s. Nowadays he'd probably still be playing, but he was a very, very young Chelsea manager and then a very young Newcastle manager for while he was here. But yeah, just watching him play, even at that stage of his career, was phenomenal for 45 minutes. So, and I was in the Newcastle end for that, and that was a lot of fun because they still brought 2,000 or 3,000 fans down, even for a pre-season friendly. So I forget the year, but that was my favorite away game. Great
stuff, Chris. Have you ever managed to get to an away game with Newcastle like that?
Yeah. They're mostly away games for me since I live in London. So I try to go to all the London area matches. I always go to Man United away. I've been to Man City away, Liverpool away. I don't know. Maybe Liverpool away would be sort of the atmosphere for me, but as far as away days, pretty hard to beat Craven Cottage. I mean, it's a great setting, good atmosphere, and close by. So Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, I love Anfield. Anfield's a fantastic atmosphere, but I'm not a fan of the whole atmosphere going down the bars at, the certain grounds that you go to where you've got to know somewhere, like maybe outside of the area, so Wigan, for example, there was a social club we always used to stop at. Notts Forest, when we used to play them, we used to have a bar which we used to go to, but not all Newcastle fans used to go to. We would have, our bus would go to it, and however many was on our bus would go to it. But to go to somewhere, to get to somewhere early and be allowed in a bar next to the ground, I mean, there's nothing better than that. Wigan, of course, had they had like the big bar next to the ground in later years. But I mean, look, the situation for you, Daz, have you done any away games with Newcastle?
No, but I can try and qualify with the pre-season games when Newcastle come over to Ireland, when they played Shamrock Rovers, St. Pat's and Bohemians. They're not away games really, because it's really a Newcastle loving, I just remember went to one of my friends and my wife, and see someone else with a Newcastle jersey, and my wife would go, "Hey, there is someone else that supports Newcastle," because it's rare enough in Ireland to see someone with a Newcastle jersey on. But so it's not an away game. Let's say it's just a pre-season friendly. But no, I've never gone to away games. If I'm targeting games to go to, it'll be a home game at St. James's Park and get a weekend away in Newcastle or something like that.
Yeah, great stuff, mate. Plenty of comments coming in. Fungo Freddy says, Warlass has had the Christmas tunes on today. Cheers, Kendall. That's after last night. Kendall singing her little ditty. Royson says, I remember Morecambe away in a midweek cup game. Both Shola and Sammy Obi scored a great pie at half-time. Good shout from Paul Oxley. Yes, it was the Zenith Data Systems Cup, mate, the Tranmere 6 Newcastle 6 game. Fungo Freddy says, we could ask Mark Knopfler to write a food bank single. He's pretty awesome at putting pen to paper about the area. Yep, it's a good shout. Tom Dixon says, how many times have we played Sunderland in a derby? If I'm right, I believe Newcastle's won on 50. I think Newcastle's played, I think they've played Newcastle have won on 53 occasions, and I think Sunderland have won on 51. I think there's been 50 draws, so it's over 150 times, I think. But you'll have to double check that, Tom. But I know Newcastle's definitely ahead. Looking at the game, guys, we haven't really talked about the game. I think obviously Sunderland are 1 up now, and that's as good as it gets for them in this game, as we know. The thing about derby games is it does bring the best out in tackles, doesn't it, Adam? And I mean, you've played yourself, but we know what happens later on to Alan Shearer. But by God, there was a few derby tackles in this one, mate.
Oh yeah, there was some great. I mean, that's been the best part of the game so far. Obviously, Sunderland are 1-0 up. It's almost half time, but yeah, some of the tackles are fantastic, especially in the middle of the park. Everyone just getting stuck in, and I love how the refs just let so much more go as well in a derby game. It really makes it a better experience for the fans. But there's some terrible defending on that goal. They've just shown the replay again there. I mean, from Nzogbia to Babayaro to Craig Moore, and I think it's Andy Fay that swings a leg at it right before the goal goes in. I mean, that's Newcastle defending of these days. Just no tracking, no tackling, just players swinging and missing. It's good to remember that that's not just the Newcastle of these days thing. Clearly, it's been around for a lot longer than that. It's terrible defending.
Yeah. What did you make of Titus Bramble, Adam?
Well, I remember when we signed him. He was one of these players from Ipswich that comes through the system there that everyone thought was going to be, a 100-cap player for England. He looked like a tremendous young defender, and we signed a fair few of them. And I remember thinking that we were going to finally sort out our defensive issues that we've had since, the early 90s by bringing in someone like Titus Bramble. At the end of the day, he did a job, didn't he? I mean, he never really hit the heights that he was supposed to, but he played a lot of games for us, went on to play a lot of games for other teams, obviously, including Sunderland. But just a shame he never lived up to his potential, but there's been too many examples of that, haven't there?
Yeah. Stephen, if you could just knock your sound down on your computer, mate, just because we're getting a bit of feedback just from what you're listening on to the show, mate, that would be great.
Steve, I've got the derby stats. If you want to hear them, actually pretty interesting stats.
Yeah, go on, Chris, please do.
Okay, so in the league, Newcastle 51 wins, Sunderland 47 with 44 draws, and here's the interesting part: Newcastle goals 211. Sunderland goals 211. So all these were a draw, and then FA Cup 2 wins Newcastle, 3 wins Sunderland, 3 draws, 8 goals for Newcastle, 11 goals for Sunderland. League Cup 2 draws, 4 goals apiece, and then that one playoff where Sunderland won.
Good stuff, mate. Thanks for sharing that.
What was your views on Wikipedia?
What was your views on Titus Bramble, Chris?
I don't really have big opinion about him. Not really a fan. Not really a hater. Neutral, but yeah.
Okay, Stephen, your views on the Titus Bramble opinion. He split fans down the middle. A lot of fans liked him. A lot of fans didn't like him. What's your take on him? I've compared Jamal Lascelles to him in the past. I just think he's a little bit prone to a mistake. Do you hear that, Stephen?
Sorry, yeah, it's just a bit crackly, that's all. It's struggling to even a bit. And okay. I was never a fan of Titus Bramble. He never did it for me. He always had a mistake, and he was a bit like Boom. John Alan Boom song, if you remember him. Okay. It was about the same. £8 million from Rangers. I thought he was absolute pile of trash, to be honest. Couldn't defend at all. So good Bramble. He was the same.
And ironically, they're both playing in this game for Newcastle. Obviously, Boomsong doesn't come on till the end, but both playing in this squad. And yeah, interesting. It was, they spent £8 million on Boomsong, or rather, Graham Souness, the previous manager, did. But in the starting lineup for this game, Bramble and Moore get the nod. And Moore didn't look too bad, to be honest. And I don't think we spent a great deal of money on Moore either. But yeah, Bramble did okay. I remember, I think it was a last game of the season where he got a goal against Chelsea. Did he get the winner against Chelsea, if I remember rightly? And I think that got us into Europe. But yeah, Bramble, certainly a player that used to split opinions. Just watching, I'm sure we're all probably at different areas now. I think, are we coming up to half time in the game now?
46 minutes on the actual YouTube.
Yeah, it should be half time very soon.
Yeah, we're coming up to half time there. So we are roughly in there. We're just seeing Charles Nzogby are in the picture, Daz. Again, like for me, Charles Nzogby was one of those players, didn't really reach his potential at Newcastle. You know, he could have been so much better. Yeah, he could have been so much better, couldn't he?
Yeah, no, I loved him at the start. I thought he was brilliant, and then like even here now he at this time frame he's doing well. But then he took it was around about the Joe Kinnear time, I suppose, where he just kind of lost interest or something. He never kicked on. But I was expecting great things from him, as so many players that arrive at Newcastle.
They started playing him as a left back, didn't they? I forget whether it was. I think it was obviously after this season that he started playing left back, and he never defended as a winger. So I don't know why they thought that he was going to defend as a left back. But I think that was sort of the end of him at Newcastle.
He was kind of I could maybe compare him to the likes of Perez, the way I think they got him from Le Havre or somewhere like that in France, and he was kind of a bit unknown, and he just kind of broke onto the scene, then broke into the team. He probably wasn't expected to start straight away or whatever, but he came on, and I remember being at a Newcastle game, and he was just breaking through, and all the other players were arriving in their fancy cars and Ferraris and everything, and you're going, wow, there. And then here comes Charles Nzogby walking up, and he's kit bag in his hand, and I go, there's Charles Nzogby. But so yeah,
we've had some left backs, mine.
Daz, you're frozen. Your video.
Oh.
Yeah, you're okay, Daz. We can still hear you, mate. Everything's fine. It happened before, mate. But don't worry about it, mate. Don't worry about it. I want to ask all of you guys as well, just about the goalkeeping situation, because this, of course, was the period where Shea Given was, of course, our number one, and Harper was on the bench. Over, I think it was nearly 199 appearances that Steve eventually made before he hung up his goalkeeping gloves at the Toon. But would you have given Harper more of a chance, or do you think Given being number one was the right choice? I didn't think there was that much between them, to be honest. I'm not sure what the difference was. What's your take on that, Chris?
I was always a Given fan. Just a lot of history with the club, pretty good results. So I was always with him. Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Daz? Were you a Harper fan, or were you okay with Given in goal at the day?
I like both, to tell you the truth, but being from Ireland, Shea Given was God. So after Packy Bonner for us in Ireland, but no, like Given, like we're like twins at times. There wasn't an awful lot in between them either, and they seemed to work well with each other. It'd be Given for me. I was disappointed when we didn't eventually sell him to City that time, so I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, same question to you, Adam, just about the goalkeepers.
Yeah, I mean, Daz just mentioned it there. I mean, I remember the day we sold him to Man City. One of the saddest days in a very sad era for Newcastle, wasn't it, when he got sold? But I mean, I was a massive Shea Given fan. I thought at times he was maybe the best goalie in the Premier League, or at least one of the best goalies that we've ever had. I mean, if you were to list our top 5 or top 10 goalkeepers, certainly in my lifetime, they would both be in there. They'd both probably be in the top 5. So it was a massive reassurance for me knowing that we had 2 great goalkeepers. I'm really glad that Steve Harper's involved at the club now. I mean, he's on a very interesting career trajectory, I think, with his involvement in Northern Ireland and his involvement at Newcastle. So. Great local lad, and he was a great backup, and I'm glad he made almost 200 appearances because he deserved them. He sat on the bench for a long time. Very, very patient guy. So yeah, I mean, Shea Given was better for me, but there wasn't a huge amount between the two of them.
Okay, Stephen. Just talking about the goalkeepers, Steve Harper and Shea Given. Which one was your favourite out of those two?
It was always Shea Given for me. I loved Shea Given, even though when he was small. He certainly made up for that with the saves he pulled off. Some of them saves he pulled off, you just sit back and think, how's he done that? With his when he first joined the club, he was only about 5 foot something, whatever. And the saves he kept making, it was just unbelievable. I mean, he got better as done at Newcastle. He was dependable, much like what Dubravka is now. He's always Mr. Dependable. You could always count on him to make a save. The Liverpool game, I think we beat 5-1. I think in the first minute, he must have been saving to stop Liverpool and scoring. That bad. I think that was the season we went down. Just shaking and pulling saves off left, right, and centre. I think after that game, that's what did it for him at Newcastle. He didn't want to stay anymore because he didn't have a good enough team in front of him to stop the shots coming in. So.
Yep. Okay, mate.
And just on Shea Given, I think if I recall, I could Google it here, but the Given before he ever came to Newcastle, I think he had a season at loan at Sunderland.
He did. Yeah. I've got
another connection.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he is another connection. I mean, we did the retro show looking back at Newcastle games against Sunderland, and I mean, he's one of those players who's in there. Of course, there's a few who have crossed the divide over the years. I mean, in recent years, you're thinking about Paul Bracewell, Barry Venison, Shea Given, Lee Clark, Andy Cole,
Titus
Bramble, yeah, David Kelly. Quite a lot of that 93, 94, that original Keegan era team, all essentially, went across the river and played for Sunderland. So, yeah, and I mean, we've had a few players in recent years who've been at Sunderland and ended up at Newcastle. Justin Rose, I think, played for Sunderland, didn't he? Van Arnholt played for Sunderland. Yeah. We had him on loan. There's a few loanee players who've done exactly the same. So it's I mean, it's not something that's it's uncommon. It's almost accepted now, and some fans though can't accept it. I mean, how do you feel, Chris, when a player comes from Sunderland and comes to Newcastle? Are you happy to see that, or are you one of these supporters who doesn't like to see a former Sunderland player coming here? I mean, we've got it with our manager, of course, Steve Bruce.
Yeah, I know you took the words right out of my mouth, Steve. I was going to comment saying it's more an issue for me when they've managed Sunderland. We've had obviously we've had a number of players that have come both sides. Who was the guy who was the blank on the name right now? But our most recent player who did the switch. Who
Manquillo?
Huh?
Is it Manquillo?
No. The ginger guy.
Oh, Callback.
Ginger Pirlo.
Yeah, the ginger Pirlo. Yeah, he was always not on Rafa's good list or whatever. So I don't know. He was good, but I don't have a lot of feelings either way about players that have done both.
Okay, Adam, what about you, mate? Are you always a little bit concerned when you see an ex-Sunderland player maybe coming to the club thinking might have an agenda?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about might have an agenda, but I think it is interesting that if I'm thinking about this correctly, most of the players that have gone from Newcastle to Sunderland, it was at the twilight of their career, right? Lee Clark, Titus Bramble stand out as good examples of that. So they went from Newcastle, where they had the peak of their career, and then went and played the back end of their career or one season or whatever at Sunderland. In fact, Steve Harper did that, right? I think he came out of retirement to be an emergency backup for Sunderland.
That's correct.
And then there's managers as well, right? So we've got Steve Bruce, I don't think he ever had a peak of his career. Maybe he's in it now. I don't know. But Sam Allardyce did it too, right? I think he managed Sunderland after Newcastle. If I'm doing that right, I've lost track of time now. And maybe one or two others. But no, I mean, this might be one of those good examples of where, the local fans see it differently from global fans or whatever you want to call us. I think I can see why, more local fans might have a bit of a problem with it. But I don't know if have we ever signed anybody good from Sunderland? That would be one way of looking at it. I'm not sure we have.
Oh, I think Barry Venison was probably
that's a good one.
Pound for pound, one of the best players that we signed. I mean, a lot of people praise Brian Kilcline and say he was Keegan's most important signing, but I think Barry Venison was.
Yeah, that's a good call. Barry Venison's a good one.
He's quite elusive as well, quite elusive, Barry, as well. But we did well. Remember early on when we started NUFC Matters, managed to get him to do an interview. We didn't get him on. We didn't get him on camera, sadly. So we don't know whether he's still got those blonde flowing locks. But the interview with him was fantastic, and he's got some stories in a book inside. And Barry, definitely, I'm not sure the book will ever get written, but it's an absolute belter if it does. Half time, by the way, on my screen. So just about to click the ads. Just about to click the ads again as the teams go into the tunnels. And Sunderland 1, Newcastle 0. It was doom and gloom on the terraces that day, that's for certain.
So you were really getting worried at that stage, Steve?
I was obviously contemplating where I was going to get my next drink from, because I don't think the bar was open that day. I think it was one of the situations if the bar was open, and I've got to be honest, I can't remember. But I mean, the last thing you want is weak Mackham beer when you're standing on those terraces. So I think you're just concentrating on will I get to the toilet or not. But I just remember it's probably one of those places where they shut the bars down, because they didn't want really any bother or any trouble. I'm not sure if you're seeing, lads, as well. But what the fantastic thing on the NUFC Newcastle United YouTube channel is that the advert that they've chosen to have in the middle of the match is the food bank. I'm not sure if you're seeing the same, guys.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Bill Corcoran on there as well. Alan Maximin, who of course went down to the food bank, and one of the first things he did when he came to the club. Fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. So I think you're right, Adam. Though I think the players who've come from there, we haven't always had great players who've come from Sunderland, but I think Barry Venison was definitely one. And I think we stole Shea Given. Really decided to come to Newcastle on a permanent move as opposed to going to Sunderland. And I remember the Mackhams being up in arms because they knew they'd missed out on a really, really good keeper.
Exactly.
I think the second half, what we'll do is, as we're watching the game, we've got to talk Shearer, I think, because obviously this was Alan Shearer's last game, and he was such a terrific servant to the club. We'll have to talk about that. A couple of texts in. Dev goes, not even a Newcastle fan, but I've always had a soft spot for them. I really liked Alberto Solano growing up. Yeah, I mean, Nobby was a great servant, wasn't he? I mean, Stephen, he was one of those players who, came to Newcastle. Obviously, we've got a Peruvian who's arrived at the club who will be hoping to have a similar kind of success. But when you watch back and see Nobby, he was majestic, wasn't he? What a player!
Oh yeah, he was great. Nobby Solano, like you say, he's a legend at Newcastle. He always will be. I mean, some say he had a hand in trying to get Vilka transfer Newcastle. Say he had a hand in that, but I don't. It's just speculation. But he was always a great for Newcastle. Yeah, how many was it he have at Newcastle? Was it 3?
Yeah, I mean, he's come across to the club. I think Nobby did have something to do with it. You're just breaking up a little bit there, Stephen. So I'll let you sort your sound out, and I'll come back to you. Daz, your views on Nobby Solano?
Oh yeah, Nobby Solano was great. I think Shearer and a few more of the strikers at the time, they always give credit to Solano for when he's putting a decent ball for them to get on the end of. And just thinking back to Solano as well, didn't we sell him to Villa and did we buy him back?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
On the same day that we signed Michael Owen.
Oh, okay. That was a bad day.
Yeah. Well, I was there again. I was at the ground that day when they had a big opened the ground to welcome Michael Owen. Everybody was inside. I was at the Leazes end of the ground. We're all standing there. We all had to queue to get in. Got in, and then obviously they brought Michael Owen to the to the Leazes end and waved to all of the fans down at that end of the ground. And as Michael Owen was walking towards us, like, there'd been rumours of Nobby Solano potentially coming back to Newcastle United, and the whole Leazes end started singing Nobby Solano, and it was whilst Sky had gone live showing Michael Owen walking to the Leazes end, and Nobby saw that and decided he was going to come back, which it's a great story, fascinating story. And I think it's one of those rare events where a player, decides to come back to his former club and did well the first time and did just as well the second time, Daz.
Yeah, and it's also, if I recall, another event that happened that day. We sold Santiago Munez to Real Madrid on that day as well, if I recall.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The swap thrown.
I didn't have that marked down, mate, unfortunately, but you must have been speaking to Andre, I think. Adam, what's your views on Nobby?
Oh, I just love Nobby Solano. I mean, one of the best right wingers or right-footed players you've ever had. I mean, not only was he great at crossing the ball, and he really was great at crossing the ball, but he took a great free kick. He did a lot of defensive work. You've seen some of it in this game as well. But he was one of the last sort of defensive wingers that we had. I remember a couple of really great goals he scored. He scored a goal with the outside of his foot. I think it was against Villa at St James's Park, and after he'd come back, so in his second time with us. It was just such a perfect goal. I mean, any player that can use the outside of his foot and the inside of his foot to sort of equal quality is just a great resource to have. And he's another guy, actually, that ended up playing as a right back when he came back to Newcastle. Maybe under Souness before he got fired. I think so. We ended up with Nzogbia playing as a fullback and Solano playing as a fullback, which was interesting. But man, I don't know if there are many better right wingers that we've had than Noel Solano. I mean, Keith Gillespie stands out for sure, but I'd be interested to see a straight up vote between Keith Gillespie and Noel Solano for best right back best right winger in modern Newcastle history. That would be an interesting vote.
Keith Rose says, apparently at half-time in this match, Glenn Roeder was going mad, tearing into the Newcastle players in the away dressing room before they came out for the second half. Good comment. Welcome, Martin. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, lads. How's everybody?
Good to see you, mate. It's half-time. Newcastle's getting beat 1-0 off Sunderland, so we're almost ready for the second half. I think Steve Bruce feature on at the moment in the middle of the game. Obviously got you in now, so we'll hang fire. If you're watching the match, just hang fire, and we'll tell you when to start the second half.
Yeah, I'm sat at 110 there now, so.
Good stuff, mate. Your take on we're just talking about different players, and we're looking at Nobby Solano, mate.
One of the best crosses of the ball I've seen. I think I'm not sure what game it was, but I remember him scoring a goal with the outside of the boot and curling it in, and it was probably one of the best natural finishes I've seen, from probably along with Shearer's volley past Schmeichel again. I think again the game against Villa, I think it was probably two of the best finishes I've seen from lads in black and white shirts. But he could ping a ball. For me, Solano, I know I listened to you guys talking about Solano and Gillespie. For me, Gillespie had that pace. It was very much, he didn't really have too many tricks, but he had the pace, and you knew what we talk about the current Newcastle players about that final piece in the final third, that last pass, that last breaking ball. And I think both of those lads had it. Gillespie was very straight, down the wing, ball in, ping. If you look at the balls he put in for Asprilla in the Barcelona game, the two headers, you probably wouldn't get two better crosses. But Solano, Adam's point, if we were going to poll it, Solano would win for me, hands down, every time, because I think he just had that little bit extra that could spark a game, get a goal out of nothing, or play a pass that you may not see. So for me, Solano was top quality.
Yeah, no, he was. As you've seen on the screen there, Sunderland are getting beat. Geordie Jedi says, 2-1 down now against the mighty MK Dons. And it's going to start. It's going to start going against them in this game that we're all watching together. Got about 5 more minutes before we start the second half anyway. And we're just obviously looking back at the teams and the players. And Martin, because you've joined us, I'm sure a man like you'll have probably done your homework. Just to give you an idea of the team that Newcastle put out that day, it was Given in goal, and then we had Carr, Bramble, Moore, Babiaro, Solano, Amdi Faye, Lee Clark, and Zogbia, Dyer, Shearer, and on the bench we had Luque, Chopra, Boomsong, Harper, and Ramage. So interesting. It was an interesting lineup as well, Martin. I mean, it's we were just saying at the start, it's a really good, strong squad, really, that Newcastle had then.
Yeah, I think you don't really think back to them games, but like when you call out the names of what we had, even from a point of the bench. I suppose back if you take it back then, Luque was today's Joe Linton. We didn't sign him for the same money, but he wasn't scoring goals. Boomsong, obviously Souness. I think Souness brought him in, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was £8 million. Some deal that.
But yeah, like we had some great players like Nzogbia. I liked Nzogbia. And obviously the likes of him and Solano, I think they both went to Villa. But Nzogbia again was one that kind of had for me all the potential, but didn't give it all. I don't think. I think he was one of those that had it in buckets, but just didn't give it. But yeah, I mean, we had a quality team. Obviously, Shearer at the front. But Chopper scored goals. Like we had a good team defensively. We were quite strong. But yeah, there was a lot of underrated players in that as well. Like Stephen Carr for me. I know we were on the group chat there the other night talking about favourite Irish players that played for Newcastle. And Stephen Carr was one of them that came up as wouldn't set the world on fire, but was just a solid pro who gave game after game and did really well for us. So. There was a lot of players on that pitch in particular. I was at that game. I came across to Ireland in 2000, and in between two of the places that I was working on, logistics-wise, we had an issue. So I was home for a month, and I managed to blag a ticket off a mate. And I think I said on the group chat last night, I went on the buses from St James's, and when we were coming back after the win, we might win. When we were coming back, we got stopped on the Wessie Way, just by where the Charlie Chalk's place was, and there was like shopping trolleys and stuff at the roundabouts, and I was like, kind of bus stopped, and the next minute the windows were just shattered inwards on us, and the kids must have been about, I'd say if they were 10 or 11, like would have been lucky, and just every window on the bus went out. I remember heading back across to Newcastle and freezing cold, wind blowing in through the bus, but sure. We'd come off the back of a win, so it didn't really matter.
It's a great story, that. I mean, the Derby games, they're like that, unfortunately. I mean, I remember going down to the old Roker Park, and again, I've mentioned this on the Retro Show where we cover Sunderland games, and I just remember, coming out, no police being there to walk you back to the station, and then just getting, missiles thrown at us, bottles, bricks, etc., outside the back of the stadium. And you were taking your life in your hands going to these games at times, and that was just the way it was back in those days. And Malky Taylor's actually on, and he's mentioned it's something completely different. He's saying, did we notice who the linesman was for the 74 Cup game versus Scunthorpe? He thinks it was the infamous Trelford Mills. I remember that game, Malky, in particular. But Malky also, can you remember the day that we went down to the Sunderland game? We both ended up bumping into each other when we were more or less left down there on our own. It was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, and we had to head back to a car. I can't remember what game it was. It was either might have been an under-21s game, but I'm sure we bumped into each other, Malky, down there, and that was quite nerve-wracking how we were going to get back to our vehicles without being cornered by the Mackhams. But we did it, mate. But we did it. Yeah, it is. It's nerve-wracking. The teams are coming out for the second half anyway. Yeah, go on, mate.
there was always a couple of grounds. If you went to the away games, you were always conscious of. There was always the two for me was the old Boylan ground, West Ham. If you came out the away end, but you turned the wrong way off the old Boylan Road, it was actually a dead end. And if you went the wrong way, you used to get caught down there. And obviously, you know, we had our lads there, but then West Ham were back in the day, Steve, you know, were fairly well handy. And if you took that wrong turn coming out of the away end, you were snookered. There was nowhere to run to. That was one. And then the next one for me was coming out of the old shed end at Chelsea and trying to get back through the West End and out of Fulham and away to get either back onto the train. That was a rocky old walk as well, trying to get out of the old away from Chelsea's ground of a night time, especially if you had a midweek. I remember going down there, I think one night on a Wednesday, might have been a cup game, and coming out the shed end, I remember getting chased for bloody miles.
I, to be honest, I've been quite lucky with trouble at grounds, but I think one of the worst ones I had, where I've had trouble is Everton. You know, where people just seem to be looking for a fight outside the back of the main stand. You know what I mean? And you can be walking through, minding your own business, and next thing you know, you're surrounded by a group of lads. You know, Everton was quite micey. Is the expression we use up here, but it was very micey, Everton, and never had any trouble at Liverpool apart from the 4-3 game where the only ticket I could get was in the centenary stand. So I was actually in the Liverpool fans, and they were all right when they were winning, but by God, when Newcastle had gone into the lead, it was, you know, I was getting the old throat slits, everything, and, you know, we're going to do it, mate. And to be honest, when Collymore scored, I was like Mo Farah getting out of that ground, and I was across Stanley Park and back to the bush, like, and that was it. But I never looked back. But yeah, I mean, great game to be at, but couldn't get a ticket for the away end, and ended up in there. And to be honest, the kid I also managed to get 2 tickets for the Liverpool stand that day. The other ticket I got was for a guy called Mark Hannon, who of course now works at the club in the press department. So Mark Hannon was with me that night as well. But we both took our chances. But imagine watching those goals go in at Anfield and not being able to do anything. I couldn't help myself. I was jumping up and down, and I think Mark put that in his book as well. But interesting days. Paul Gibson says the scraps getting off the bus. Well, it was great. It was like the Battle of the Somme. Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely, I can imagine. So the second half's kicking off. This is probably one of the best second halves I can remember as a Newcastle fan. I mean, it's up there with the Arsenal 4-4 comeback, because you're 1-0 down in a derby, which you should never have been losing. Newcastle didn't play badly in the first half, but then it's like it's a monumental change in this game, isn't it, lads? Chris, I mean, it is the proverbial game of two halves.
Yeah, you know, there wasn't really much to write home about in the first half there, but the second half is, you know, you wonder what was sort of said at halftime. You know, you always kind of bring it back to present day. You wonder what did Steve Bruce tell the lads at halftime, but you know, you think that this is the game, the one game that they mark on the calendar all year that they want to win, and of course this is Shearer's last game in this season, so extra incentive. You know, doesn't want to go off a loser in his last game, and of course he was on that. You know, he had that penalty miss that he wanted to correct. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, but just the camera just panned onto Steve Cram, the celebrity fan for Sunderland in the stands there. I remember this footage, because they constantly pan into the stands to try and find famous faces, and I think they had Steve Harmison on a little bit earlier from a Newcastle perspective, and they kept panning into the stands like they always do. But no change yet, because obviously Michael Chopra hasn't come on yet, but it's it's, you know, this second half is such a special second half, isn't it? Really?
Oh yeah, and Martin joins as the glory hunter for the Newcastle goals. We won't forget that, Martin. But yeah, no, it's special with it being Shearer's last game for us and last goal on bringing him to 206. But yeah, and as Chris mentioned as well about Glenn Roeder, yeah, from the piece I was reading this morning as well. But yeah, there was definitely something said in the dressing room. I suppose he's played for us, so he knew that he had that passion to kind of to rile them up a bit. And yeah, just back as well as I was saying earlier about the stats as well said something that when Roeder came in as in temporary basis that it was he won 10 of 15 games with Shearer as the assistant manager. I wonder why Shearer didn't stay on in that capacity after that. Did he go doing his coaching badges, or what was the reason behind that?
I think he did. I think it's a great question. Barry Hogan, I'm personally up to 1 hour and 15 minutes, mate. That's where we're at in the game. That's roughly where we're all at. It's a great question, that does. I don't know. Because Glenn Roeder obviously had Terry McDermott alongside him as well, didn't he? I think we've just seen him on the bench there, but I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, why didn't he continue in that role? And maybe when Glenn Roeder went, that was it. It was the end of the it was the end of the ideas of that. He went on to get his coaching badges, and then obviously didn't get the opportunity to look after Newcastle until he was needed. But it's a good point.
No, because sorry, Steve. No, because I know the next season after this, it was my last trip to Newcastle actually, and they got 2 games in because they do qualify for the Europa League or UEFA Cup as it was probably called then. But so just interesting. I must do a bit of research on that, or talk to Andre. He'll probably know.
Yeah,
probably quicker.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Martin. I mean, in the first half, we were talking a lot about that. About Shearer, and obviously this game is Shearer's last. I mean, what kind of servant was Alan Shearer to Newcastle United for you, mate?
Luckily enough, I suppose if you look at the generation now, there's lots of lads who are going to the games now or have been going to the games that probably never ever seen him play. I'm lucky enough to call myself one of those that was able to see him play live. So I think I don't think his goals tally will ever be passed by anybody in a black and white shirt. I would be certainly not in my lifetime. But I think we talk about. I've been quite critical of Lascelles, and a couple of tweets, and I've gone, not my captain. No passion, no drive. We spoke about it on the show the other night. Shearer, for me, epitomised everything that you want from a player in a black and white shirt. Pride, passion, love for the area, gave blood and guts, 120% every game, wasn't shy, would happily give a bollocking on the pitch if he had to, could score all kinds of goals, was able to hold up, could cross a ball. He was just... there is no other player that has been like him in a black and white shirt for me. I don't think there ever will be.
And he stood up to Roy Keane. That's something for me as well.
And he stood up to Roy Keane after getting the ball bounced off him. But yeah, I think he epitomised everything that we're missing now, Steve. That spot for captaincy. We've argued the point between a lot of the panel on the NUFC matters. About should it be a defender, should it be a goalkeeper, should it be midfield, should it be a striker? I kind of said I'd like to see Wilson with an opportunity. We spoke about Hayden, but again, even if you go back to those players, okay, it's what we have. But I don't think I don't think they just. You have to get the club, and I think Alan got it. As he said, he's just a sheet metal worker's son from Gosforth. So, he just epitomised everything for me, the black and white, and putting that shirt on was about.
Yeah, good points, mate. Good points. Chris, Alan Shearer, favourite memories of Alan Shearer?
Oh, just, start to finish. I mean, he's the reason why I found the club when he came, and, the reason why I became a fan. In the first place, and just meant everything to the club and to the tune and everything. Favorite memory. It's sort of hard to beat this send off, but yeah, I mean, I feel like it's talking about a player in his mold. There'll never be another one like him in terms of the captain and everything that led the club. And there's no replacing him or sort of someone that's going to be able to step in his boots. But I do like Callum Wilson as someone who sort of epitomizes the sheer work ethic and really putting a shift in every time. So I wouldn't mind seeing him like Martin as the captain.
Yeah, Stephen, welcome back, mate. I know you're having a few technical issues, but we're just talking about Alan Shearer. Martin says he doesn't think that Alan Shearer's record will get broken by anybody in a black and white shirt. But do you think his Premier League record will be broken? Harry Kane and Alan Shearer was interviewed this week about this. He does feel that if Harry Kane stays at Tottenham and continues in the same shape and form, he will be the man who eventually takes his crown. Do you think that's possible?
Well, yeah, it was the way Harry Kane's playing at the moment. He's unreal. And did anybody say the Shearer and Wright video on Match of the Day about it? Shearer looking so smug. He's got the record in fewer games than what Harry Kane did.
I didn't see that, but I know a lot of people were retweeting something. So that's obviously what it was. But yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a record, and regardless of whether Harry Kane beats it or not, I think Martin's right. Well, certainly at the moment, we're not going to see Joe Linton or Callum Wilson beating that record, are we?
No, I don't think so.
Way.
And if you look at the 3 seasons as well, look at the injuries that Shearer had to come back from. And I know that sports medicine and repair therapy and everything else in the clubs now is obviously changing. We spoke about the medical teams and how vital they are. But I mean, probably 10 years ago, if you got some of the injuries that Shearer got, a lot of those players didn't come back from. So for him to come back from them a couple of times and still get the goal record that he did, a lot of those players. I'd love to see what his goal scoring record would have been if he'd not had the seasons out with injuries that he did, because I'd say he would have been well over the 300, probably 350. I would say. Longer term, I think will Harry Kane surpass the record if he stays fit? I think he will. I think the only thing for me with Harry Kane is if you look at him this season, he's actually playing a lot deeper. He's become more a link-up player. I watched Harry Kane the last couple of games for Spurs, and part of me thinks has he lost a little something, because he's still scoring the goals, but Son is playing further up the pitch for me, the Spurs at the moment. So I just wonder, has Kane suffered something that he's just playing slightly further back, linking up, and maybe playing Son. Son seems to be playing more as an out-and-out striker. So will that have a deficiency on Kane's goals? Maybe.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think the big thing is, it'll come down essentially. I think that Alan Shearer, if he does beat his record, there'll be something he still has. He'll have got it quicker, or Alan will have took less penalties, or it'll be something. But I mean, look, either way, fantastic servant of the club, as everybody in the chat says as well. And Malky Taylor makes the point just before I come to Barry's question. He says, if ever a player was the ultimate role model, Shearer all day. For me, his drive, determination, desire was awesome. Geordie Jedi says as well, he put his body on the line for us. Barry Hogan does make a point, though, that Harry Kane is also picking up injuries, and he has done. It does have to be said. So, will be interesting to watch that. He does ask us as well, so we'll open this up to the panel. Daz, will come to you first, and then Chris. What do you think of young Anderson training with the first team? Do you think he's ready, Daz?
To be honest, I haven't seen him, but I've heard people talking about him on podcasts. Actually, it's in the Black and White podcast this week. They're talking about him, but so I haven't seen him, so I can't really comment. But yeah, it's something though. Even back from Rafa and Bruce, they don't tend to give the young lads a break that often. I suppose Matty Longstaff, I know Bruce gave him a break and he took it. give him a chance. Yeah, especially with the few injuries we have, it's worth a place on the bench and a run out, especially in the game against Chelsea.
I don't know where you're up to, but Michael Shopper has just come on, and with his first touch, he scored a goal. And what a master stroke that was, Glenn Roeder. Take a bow, son. Honestly, that substitution was great. And no matter what people think of Michael Shopper because of his the stuff that he's had to do on social media about the takeover, he's a good lad. He's a good pal of mine. And that day, you can see etched in his face and the emotion in his face how much it meant to play for our football club. And he literally came on, ran onto the pitch. The ball was played in, and he bundled the ball into the net. And it doesn't matter how it goes in when you play Sunderland, when you're a Geordie, it's if it goes in. And that really was a magnificent moment. Goalkeeper didn't have the ball under control, and I'd love to know what VAR would have probably made of it, but we didn't have it in those days. The good old days without VAR. And what a goal. Absolutely brilliant. So 1-1, Newcastle back in the game, and everybody's buzzing. Elliot, what about Anderson, Chris? Have you seen anything of him? Is it time to blood a young player, do you think, in the squad?
Like that, I haven't seen him, but it is easy to say that Newcastle has such a poor record with converting their academy players into first-team players. I mean, we're only the Longstaff brothers in the last season or so are the only ones who have made the jump. So I don't think that I would say that we're not quite as dire straits to put a young lad in there. But if we're down to if we need an injection or something, maybe we should try. But I don't think we should count on the young players.
Charlton Zogbia fouled, penalty to Newcastle, and Alan Shearer scores. And what a quick turnaround in that game. Nobby Solano jumping on the back. The photograph which we used to promote the show today just shows the raw emotion as the camera pans onto the crowd there, and see a few of the lads celebrating, and Shearer just milking the applause. Absolutely brilliant. Just fantastic. Shearer's last goal for Newcastle, and always hurts when you know that that's going to be the last time you see the big man hit the ball in the back of the net, because he could have got a few more goals at the back end of that season. I've got no doubt. Probably another 10 on his total, I would have imagined, if he'd been allowed to play. Just a quick one about the Sky coverage of Sunderland and MK Dons today. I had to look. I always have to look twice under the show the stadium because all the ground's empty, but that means I just think it doesn't look much different to the way it normally does at the Stadium of Light. But it's still 2-1 MK Dons. They've got Lee Bowyer doing the match commentary in the studio of the game. I mean, they couldn't have picked anybody better, could they? The manager who stopped them going up when in the playoff final with Charlton, and he's trying to look sympathetic, but it's not working at all. He's clearly enjoying covering that game where the Mackems getting beat, I think. Elliot Anderson, Stephen, what about him for you? I mean, he's a young lad, young player.
Like most of the panel have said, I've not really I'd seen him, to be honest. So I don't really know what he's capable of. But we don't have a very good record of blooding youngsters into the squad, unlike Matty Longstaff, for instance. We always said to get these up-and-coming young stars like Rolando Aarons, for another example. The best I was expecting of Rolando Aarons, but since his career has just declined, no wonder we were trying to sell him in transfer windows, and nobody will take him. There has to be something done to give these young up-and-coming prodigies a chance in the first team, even to just experience the match day squad, for instance.
I think we need a better academy. I think we need a better academy, though, Stephen, don't we? And I think if we do get the takeover eventually, I think one of the big things that the new owners need to do is to plough some serious money into our training facilities and into the academy.
Yeah, you're right there. You have to. Because our training facilities are really outdated.
Yeah, and there's so many, and there's also so many good local clubs. I mean, if you look, just next to Newcastle, there's Wall's End Boys Club, for instance, which has produced so many great footballers over the years. There's Redheugh Boys Club in the in the heart of Gateshead, and from their perspective, they've created so many great players over the years, brought through so many great players, and I think if the club linked up with them, it could be massive for the club, couldn't it?
Oh yeah, it could be massive if they would form some sort of partnership with these clubs that's churning out these superstars that's going to have fantastic football careers. It's something like that would be suitable, because the way it is now, it's just not going to. Most prodigies aren't going to want to play for Newcastle. They're going to go elsewhere. Like with the team, the squad we've got. The players who got out on loan, like Kellen Watts, like the Toure, and that stuff like that. They don't stand a chance of getting into the first team. You play for the under-23s, yes, but they aren't going to stand a chance of getting in the first team with our first team squad as good as it is at the moment.
Yeah, no, good point, Stephen, mate. You're sound spot on now, mate. So good to have you firing on all cylinders.
I think. Sorry, Steve. I just think as well as the academy, I think sorting out the loan loaning players out. I know Shoal's in there now as the loan arranger, but do more on that side. We kind of seem to be very late sending players out on loan, and then when they come back, like look at. Brazier, like he was doing well, and then he came back, and then we sold him. It's very late in their kind of career that they go or not in their Newcastle career. Let's say that they're getting out on loan, and just getting that bit of experience be beneficial to them as well, I think.
Yeah, 3-1 on my feed now. Charles Nzogbia with a little bit of trickery, a little bit of fancy footwork, jinxed round the Sunderland defenders and slotted it in the bottom right-hand corner. What a goal that was, really, from Charles Nzogbia. And Chris Hall was asking about Charles. We did touch on it slightly earlier, Chris. You might have just got in. I know you were out and about this afternoon, but... we did say that if he'd just done a little bit more of that through his career at Newcastle, Charles Nzogbia, he could have been a great player. But there was a couple of them in that team. Kieran Dyer as well as another one, who probably just didn't discover his potential. I mean, Dyer spent a lot of time out and about socially, and when you do that as a footballer, you're not going to put in your best performances if you're filling your body full of alcohol when you've got days off. And nothing wrong with it. It's up to you if that's what you want to do. But it just shows you the best results come when you've got a manager like Alex Ferguson who's on your every move and has spies all over bars and lets people know when you're out and about and cracks down on that straight away, But yeah, I think we've touched on that earlier, Chris. So thanks for your suggestion. Barry Hogan's laughing at your Shola Amiobi, the Lone Ranger there, Daz. So and Malky's having a laugh at empty seats. There's definitely lots of empty seats at Sunderland today, mate. Yeah, we'll talk a few about Gibbon and Harper before you came on, Martin. What's your views on those two? I mean, Gibbon's in goal for Newcastle in this match. Harper's on the bench, which is the way it was most of the time. Were you a Harper fan?
Yeah, again, I think he's another one that has been a fantastic servant to the club. Obviously, he's there now in a coaching role. Surprised he stayed as long as he did with Gibbon, because you were never really going to displace Gibbon. I think Gibbon, for me, is probably one of the best goalkeepers we've ever had. But credit to Harper. He stuck around. He took his chances when he got them. I suppose probably not the same service, but same credit to Darlow. Really, he's seen keepers come and go, and he stuck around and took his chances. Kind of would remind me of Harper. But yeah, Gibbon was just, again, I think one of the best that we've had. Certainly during some of the games I've watched, I think Gibbon has been one of the best keepers we've ever had.
Yeah, Harper was a great number two, wasn't he? Great servant, and to have the loyalty, I suppose, to stay there all that time was fantastic, really.
Yeah, I think he could have easily looked at that and done a season and a half with Gibbon and gone, do you know what, bugger that, and gone off. And he probably would have gone into a lot of teams at that time in the Premier League. He probably would have got into the number one slot, but he didn't. He stuck around, took it on, and again took his chances where he did. But it was always going to be a big ask to dislodge the given at the time. But yeah, I mean, we're probably in a similar situation. Obviously, when Dubravka comes back, I think we've got two good goalkeepers there. So we're not, if you take Gillespie as well, and Woodman, we're not, we have got some strength in depth in some places, but again, there is other areas of the squad that are just, skin bare at the moment,
Yeah, Dino's asking us a question. He's saying, do you think with the club fighting to stay in the league every season could be the reason younger players don't get a chance? Chris, it's a good question from Dino. Do you think that's the reason why we don't see as many young players getting blooded at Newcastle as would hope?
I don't know. I mean, if we had a young Messi or something like that, we'd certainly put him in the squad. We just we haven't for whatever reason able to develop the academy. I think, like you said earlier, Steve, we sort of have a reputation as a club of letting the local young promising guys go and play for another club. I mean, from Shearer and blanking on the guy who would play for Liverpool. We just, besides the Longstaffs, who are sort of in a rut right now. I mean, certainly they came on pretty strong, and were getting accolades about being sold to Manchester United for £30 million or whatever, or scoring in their debut against Man United. I feel like there's a problem with the academy, and I don't know if it's going to be solved under Ashley. He couldn't be arsed about putting me or scouting to developing the academy. So I think the academy, as far as I'm concerned, is really on standby until we have new ownership.
Yeah, we've just seen on the footage of the game that I'm up to Alan Shearer limping off there after the challenge that he received, and disappointing to see that. But happy to see the scoreboard that the camera goes up to see Newcastle winning the game 3-1. And Albert Luque, of course, coming onto the pitch. Mentioned Albert Luque briefly there and saying that he didn't have too good a time at Newcastle. I mean, I was there on his debut. He received a horrendous injury on his debut, and that ultimately set him back. But from my perspective, he just joins the list of players who came to the club for a vast amount of money in that period and just didn't live up to expectation. Did he, Daz?
No, and I was so looking forward to Luque signing. I thought, okay, he's coming from Deportivo La Coruña, and I thought he could do wonders for us. And yeah, I did a quick Google on him again this morning just to refresh my memory. But yeah, it was against Man United, I think, and he scored in his debut in that game. But no, he never did anything for us really. And as someone, I think it was Martin that said it, he's like the Joe Linton today. But yeah, never clicked. So much was expected, but never happened. Was it? So it was probably Souness that brought him in, actually. Yes, it was, because there was some controversy around that signing as well. In later years, I think. Yeah, a bit of controversy over all of these signings that Graham Souness did. It seemed to be a bit of an old pals act, and there was always we always seem to be surprisingly paying over the odds for certain players. I mean, I think as the story goes, we could have had Boomsong a year earlier for about £1 million. We end up paying £8 million for him a year later when he hasn't really done anything extra. So I think Stephen made that point as well about Boomsong, didn't you, Stephen? It was a ridiculous amount of money to pay for somebody, especially from Rangers at the time, when people were picking up players from Scottish football for peanuts.
Yeah, it wasn't a deal for Newcastle. £8 million. I can't believe it. There's been better things to spend £8 million on, and he wasn't one of them.
Yeah, you're right, mate. You're right. I mean, he was absolutely US. There's no doubt about it. What did you think of Luke though, Stephen?
Oh, I didn't mind Luke. I was genuinely excited when he signed for about nearly £10 million. I think he was getting a good player here. Mm-hmm. And then as his career went on at Newcastle, you could see he was a bit like Fernando Torres. Everything he tried didn't come off. He was trying to score, but said he just couldn't do it. And that goal against Sunderland, he scored for the 4th goal. I was really genuinely pleased for him. He said, well, he's got his goal now. He said he can be a little bit happy that he's contributed to a goal a goal or two in a Newcastle shirt.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if I remember rightly, he played his part in the semi-final against Spurs in the FA Cup as well. So, I mean, he wasn't completely useless. I think I remember that day we were all a bit panicky that Luque was in the squad, and he actually did he score in that game? I can't remember. Was it the game against Spurs, or was it Shearer who scored? It might have been he set up Shearer, I think.
Shearer scored, I think, but was it Luque that set him up, or was that?
Was it Luque? I think we'll have to Google that. We'll leave that to you, Chris. You seem to be the Google expert. Double check that. That game against Tottenham in the semi-final. The late 90s, late 90s, and just let us know who got the assist. I'm pretty sure it was Luque. I just have this memory of going down there and going, "Oh my God, Luque is playing." And it was just, he did the business on the day. I think he played a ball in and Shearer scored, and it was cause for celebration, like absolutely brilliant. Just focusing on the crowd there, and the Newcastle fans are waving their keys in the air and singing the famous song, "We's keys are these keys." All good banter, all good fun when you're down at Sunderland, and they're as good as they get, obviously, at home. But it's there's nothing like that derby game. We're talking about it, Martin, and before you came on in the first half. Have you been lucky enough to go to one, mate? I mean, have you been to a Newcastle Sunderland derby? Have you been to a Newcastle Borough? Is it an experience you're yet to get involved in? I know you mentioned the bus one away, but have you been to any more apart from that one?
Yeah, I've been to a couple of the home ones. I missed the 5-1. The second ever derby I went to was Liam O'Brien's famous Over the Wall. However, couldn't really celebrate because I was in the clock stand with a Mackem mate of mine. Him and his missus used to go, and she was sick, so we used his ticket, and I went and stood in the clock stand. So I was in the clock stand at the lower level in Roker Park when O'Brien scored. So definitely no celebrating there because that would have been good night, God bless. So I've been to that. Went to the 1-1, I think it was, at the Stadium of Light. I went to I was at St James's for the derby where Bellamy and Shearer scored. Shearer scored the rasper of a free kick. I think at the time the head was bandaged, if memory serves me right. I think he'd gotten a crack on the head and was a bit like doing his Terry Butcher impersonation with the bandage and the blood and everything else. So yeah, no, I've been lucky to see a few derbies. I think with the derbies, though, the blood and thunder that we maybe had, from the older ones. Best derby for me, away derby was at Roker, and it was when we wore the blue strip with the Brandon through the middle with the old brown ale badge on, not the one that's on the 96 shirt. And I think it was Ferdinand and Shearer scored. They played it in a beam back to the Orient in Newcastle because there was that many fans trying to go. So that was one of the good ones. And any of the home ones, I would love to have been at the 5-1. But I was in a pub here with a Mackem mate of mine, so it was still thoroughly enjoyable because I was drunk and with a Mackem. So yeah, so been to a few, Steve. Luckily enough, mate. Yeah.
We've been beaten to it, Chris. Keith Rolls got it right. I knew it was some foreign import. It was Silvio Maric who set Shearer to score against Spurs in the FA Cup semi-final. What do we think of Silvio
Thought it
Maric?
was.
What did Malcolm Taylor? Well, always jump in, Stephen. If I'm not always right, mate. So if you ever jump in, that's great. Yeah, Silvio Maric. What did you make of him, Stephen? While you're on them, another foreign import. He did serve us well that day, it has to be said.
Yeah, he did serve us well that day, but he's other part of his Newcastle career. I do not remember him at all.
Yeah.
Well, that says it all. I don't remember him at all.
Yeah, that says it all, Daz, doesn't it? When you kind of remember, and there'll be a lot of players now who you probably don't remember at all. But you can probably remember the name, but can't remember anything they actually did for us, which is
exactly
sad.
And that's why I'm Googling him here now as well. Yeah, he scored 0 goals for us.
Wow.
He played 23 games. Let me see his club career. No, there's very little on Wikipedia about him, to tell you the truth. Croatian international.
That's right. Croatian international as well. Yeah, and definitely, this is when agents were in their ascendancy, when agents were really running football, and they were making absolute fortunes out of it.
Yeah, and I remember that name links me to the time when we were in the early round of the Champions League when Sir Bobby was there, and we didn't qualify. I link his name to that era for some reason.
Yeah. No, I think that is right. Yeah, it's we just had a whole host of either cash hungry mercenaries from abroad, or players who were past their best, and it was in that era where we'd buy players from Man United or Blackburn, and there were good players back in the day, but when you got Man United and teams selling players, Man United and Chelsea selling players, they don't sell good players, do they? They just don't sell good players.
No. I mean, we took Nicky Butt. He did okay for us, but you would question and say, well, if he was in that prime, Man United would never let him go.
Yeah, Damien Duff's another one.
What about Ronnie Johnson?
Ronnie Johnson, yeah, great shout. Yeah. We got a striker on loan from Man United as well, didn't we? Around about that same time. Giuseppe Rossi. Yeah, good knowledge. Yeah. Good knowledge, Stephen. Yeah. He was all right, if I remember right.
He had all the potential. He was another one that had the potential, but I think Rossi ended up going back to Italy, as far as memory serves, and did really well. Did Rossi end up in the MLS?
Yeah, I think he did. He wasn't a bad turn. He wasn't a bad turn. He wasn't a bad turn him at all. Wasn't a bad turn him at all. But of course, it was a loan deal, that I think, and we didn't make it permanent. But yeah, we've had so many players who've come in who've come from those teams and just have let way down. Well, on the coverage, we've only got about 12 minutes left, guys. Coming up towards the back end of the game now, and getting ready for Albert Luque's contribution to the game. Looking at that team. Martin, well, I'll ask you first. Compare this team to the team we've got now. Who would have won in a game between those two teams? Newcastle United now with this team.
This team, without a doubt. That's an easy question, Steve.
It is.
They had Shearer. I think they had. We had creativity in Solano, Dyer. We were probably defensively were we stronger, maybe a little bit with the current team, possibly. But midfield and attacking wise, I think this team would have beaten the current.
If you take Shearer out of that team, is there any? You're looking at Solano with his hand on the post there, but I would say let's forget Given, forget Solano, and forget Shearer. There's your main spine. There's your main spine of your team. Are there any other players in that team who you would take if they were playing today that you would take and put in today's team?
I take Dyer back.
Really?
I know I know he had his moments, and obviously him and Bowie had the fist up. But funny thing was, I was watching a rerun of the final game where Bellamy scores in the 91st, and I watched Dyer in that, and then I watched him in a couple of games after that, and he did score some good goals, kind of breaking through and running through the defense and one-on-ones, and I think he was, I wouldn't say again he was a world beater, but he scored some cracking goals and he had all the potential. So is he better than anything we've got in our current midfield or number 10 at the moment? I think he is. Maybe not everybody would agree with that, but I would definitely put him back in there. Would you bring Clarkey back? Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I would have Lee Clark.
You'd have Lee Clark back, Chris. Yeah.
He gets the passion, gets the club. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you look at the midfield we've got now, we don't have that buy-in. So, but I'd take Dyer back.
Dyer, okay. Same question to you, Daz. I mean, is any players in that team, if they were playing today, you would slot straight in? They'd get a start. Look at the back. Have a look at the back four there. I mean, Babiaro, Moore, Titus Bramble, Stephen Carr.
I'd take Stephen Carr. Daz has gone off, has he?
He's gone, yeah. Sorry, mate. I was watching that. I'm watching the game for Shopper's goal. I didn't realise Daz had gone, lads. I'm watching it on the same screen, sadly. The good news is that it's full time at the Stadium of Light. Full time at the Stadium of Light in real time, and it's Sunderland 1, MK Dons 2 final score today. So good news. When Newcastle on playing, we still get some good news. Exactly. Get in. Daz, just looking at today's team. Just looking at that team on the Sunderland Newcastle game. I'm just saying the back four. Is any of those players that you would put in? Would you take Stephen Carr? Would you take Titus Bramble or?
Yeah, you're just concentrating on the back four. No, I wouldn't take any of them, to tell you the truth. I'm one of the few in our conversation in the WhatsApp group that didn't rate Stephen Carr when he came to Newcastle. He was brilliant for Spurs, but I didn't think he did great for Newcastle. Maybe I was expecting too much as well. But no, I wouldn't take any of them. No, and that's saying something considering where we are as well today. But the back four, no. Anywhere else on the pitch, yes, but no, not the back four.
What about Kieran Dyer? Martin's just suggested Kieran Dyer, and Chris suggested Lee Clark. He said he'd take both of them and play both of them now.
Yeah, take Clark. Yeah, sure. A bit of passion. Yeah, that's could definitely do with that. Dyer with the right manager to keep an eye on him, keep his head in the game. He was brilliant when he came from Ipswich first under Sir Bobby. But it'd have to be with the right manager.
Lucas just scored. Yeah, Lucas just scored. A great way to finish the day, and obviously gave us the end to a perfect song when we eventually play Sunderland again. And funnily enough, we're talking about. I was talking earlier about Newcastle 6, Tranmere 6 down at Tranmere, and today their game against Port Vale has gone virtually the same way. They've just scored in the 96th minute to make it Tranmere 4, Port Vale 3. Some things never change when you're managing Tranmere, obviously. Clark was a slow centre midfielder. Surely can run, says Paul Gibson. Let's all laugh at Sunderland, says Malky Taylor. Definitely, mate. Stephen, just coming to you on that. On the squad that we're watching in the Sunderland Newcastle game. Do you agree with the lads? Do you think Kieran Dyer and Lee Clark would walk into our team at the moment?
Well, yes and no. I prefer the midfield we have now. When Shelby, Hayden, for Jeff Hendrick even, but I think our midfield now to what we had back then. Even our back line, I prefer our back line now to what it was then, because our back line then didn't scream to you clean all that does it.
No, definitely not, mate. Definitely not. The best thing about Jean-Alain Boumsong, by the way, is his haircut. He's just come on, so it's about 88 minutes. 88 minutes played. Sunderland 1, Newcastle 4. Yeah, I mean, final thoughts on this game, lads. Chris, start with you, then we'll go around to Martin.
You know, obviously the end of an era with Shearer's final match. Way to go out, getting that penalty retribution, or getting the last laugh, the last shot against the main rival is what a way to go out. It's obviously a different era in terms of sort of the last kind of time when you had kind of hope in Newcastle, and that they had a solid squad, and Sunderland going down, sort of the beginning of their woes, and it's sort of a time capsule. It's a glimpse into sort of not that long ago, but sort of how long ago it seems in terms of where we are now and where they were then.
Okay, Martin, your final thoughts on this game that we've watched back today?
Yeah, like Chris, end of an era, really. Shearer, last goal. When you think back about it now, having been there, it's one of those things where we are now. You don't actually think about it, but when, if I flip back in time and I think, God, I seen Shearer's last goal. You don't really, you don't really think about those things. But yeah, some things, obviously, Stadium of Light, still empty seats. That's never changed. But it is, and weirdly, I've actually the jersey from that, the shirt from that season. I have a fully signed squad jersey from that season that hangs up in the bedroom here. That I have, and I was only physically cleaning up there the other day, looking at some of the signatures on it, and think, God, we did have some good players back then. But it is, it is a snapshot of a time, and brings back those memories and different games. And I think that's been one of the good things in doing these retro games. Watching the comments coming up, people are flashing back in time, and it does take you back to. I remember that. I remember the bus trip home. I remember who I was stood beside. I remember what we were talking. I remember trying to get in there for a pee. I remember all those weird things that you don't think about. So I think it's a time in any time that we beat Sunderland is a good time. So they're always great memories. But there was a lot of things that finished up on that day, and it was good to be part of. But obviously, end of legacies, which is not always nice. But
yep, Daz, your summing up, please, of this retro game against Sunderland.
Yeah, I'll go with Sunderland first. And they were already relegated when at this game. They were after coming from Mick McCarthy, then Kevin Ball, and then after this they go on and Niall Quinn managed them for a while, and then Roy Keane goes on a brilliant run to get them back into the Premier League again. But then just on Newcastle. This game will be forever remembered as Shearer's last game, obviously, and as Chris says, it's nice to see him to score a goal, be the penalty in his last game. But yeah, as well for Newcastle, and I'm thinking to my career of following Newcastle, let's say, from the lows to the highs of nearly winning the league, and then our Champions League years, and this is kind of coming towards our end of our UEFA Cup kind of years, and then after that we keep going slowly backwards, and the Ashley years. So it's the winding down of that era for Newcastle. But yeah, it's a great one for Shearer's last goal, and a great memory for him as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, good evening, Thomas Wilson. Good to have you on, mate. We're nearly finished. I hope that's not you just arriving. Stephen, your final thoughts on this game?
Well, we say it was the last ever goal for the club. It's like an end of an era. Yeah, pretty much end of an era for me. That's all I can pretty much say on it.
Yeah. Do you think we'll play Sunderland again, Stephen, in the league at least?
I hope so. I definitely hope so. But it's not looking likely anytime soon, is it?
No, it's definitely not. Definitely not. Well, that's the end of the game. Newcastle United winning 4-1 as the camera pans onto the dugout, and Russell Cushion and Freddie Shepherd in there. But Michael Chopra leading the applause, and as the Newcastle fans go wild in the on the terraces and salute their heroes. Lads, as always, been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Malky, enjoyed it. Great crack, great memories, great results. Thanks for the show, chaps. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Martin. Thanks to Daz and Steve. Thanks for your debut. Well done, mate. It's always difficult coming on for the first time, mate, but you did very well. Don't forget, guys, we are always producing material, and we will always be on 7 days a week throughout this pandemic and lockdown period, and we are doing a variety of shows. We're going to be back tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. We're going to have the worldwide show, so some of the guys who you're seeing on the screen will be on tomorrow, and we're also doing the Phone a Friend campaign, which is running throughout November and throughout this lockdown period, where we're asking you to call a family member or friend that you haven't spoken to for a while. And it makes all the difference because it's all about mental health and making sure that everybody is okay. So we will play out with our video. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Good night.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Steve.
Yes, guys.
Good night. See ya.
Mick Quinn here, and with another lockdown looming, you can understand why people are feeling down, a little bit depressed. Newcastle United fans, I'm backing Phone a Friend. So if you feel that way, pick up the phone, ring a mate, ring a family member, tell them how you feel. Get it off your chest and you'll feel a lot better. I'm backing Phone a Friend.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Caldwell and I'm backing Phone a Friend.
What we've all got to do is stick together, family and friends. So if you're feeling a little bit low, a little bit not positive about the outcome of the day that's coming up, just pick up the phone, call one of your friends or family. Little 5-10 minute chat makes you feel that bit more positive. Share your thoughts with the person you're speaking to, but stay as positive you can. We're going to come out of this, we'll come out of the better. So Lee Clark, Newcastle United, I'm back in Phone a Friend. All the very best.
I'm back. Phone a Friend.
Hi everyone, Rob Lee here. There we have it, another lockdown looming for all of us. It can be strange times, people can be very isolated, people feel very depressed. That's why I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Liam O'Brien here. I'm backing Phone a Friend.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Please remember, these are very, very tough times for us all. And if you're not feeling well, you're not feeling confident, you're not feeling good, just phone a friend.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.
Good morning, this is Warren Barton. I just want to wish you a good day, enjoy your day. I know it's a difficult time for everybody at the moment. If you are feeling isolated, feeling alone, just reach out for someone. You're not on your own, whether it be a work colleague, a family member, next door neighbour, maybe even the guy in the paper shop. Just reach out to them, you're not alone. We know we want to try and support our team and concentrate on something else, but at this difficult time, just reach out for someone. There's someone there to support you, and I wish you all the best. Take care.
I'm backing Phone a Friend.